actually inspired by some of the sharing that we had in Circle last night. And the sentiment of that sharing was basically, you know, we all have a story. There's things that we've experienced in our life that have made us us. And they've shaped the way that we interact with the world, and they've shaped the way that we think about ourselves, and we think about relationships, and the way that we feel about interactions. And often when we're not understood or met in those experiences, or we've had experiences that have created disparity, trauma, we've interpreted things differently to how other people in that experience interpreted things, and we're alone in our experience, it can be very difficult then to know how to relate, you know, to others in a way that is secure and healthy and constructive, and actually allows us to feel met and understood. And as this goes on in time, you know, what we need to think about is we have our actual experience, and then we have what we've made that experience mean. And then we have the behaviors that come from the meaning that we've prescribed to that experience. And the behavior is what the world sees. So others are seeing the behavior, but they're not necessarily understanding if you go backwards from the experience, they're not necessarily understanding the emotion. Behind the emotion, they're not necessarily understanding the need. Behind the need, they're not really understanding the belief. And behind the belief, they're not really understanding the experience. And if we really want to understand each other, and this is the power of story, if we really want to understand each other, we need to be willing to actually listen to each other's experiences, the way that we've been shaped as human beings, the things that have impacted us, the things that have made us us. And it's not necessarily that we'll ever be able to fully step into another's shoes and understand and live through their experience, but the more we talk about our experiences and stop judging each other's behavior, the more we find a place of solidarity, the more we find a place of compassion, the more we find a place of understanding, the less we project our opinions about why someone is the way that they are. And we stop condemning and saying this is right, this is wrong, and we actually allow someone to be, we give them space to be within their experience. The behavior will start to change. Because what happens when our experiences haven't been held, when our experiences haven't been understood, when our experiences haven't been shared as a tribal being, we need to have shared experiences. And when that hasn't happened, P.S. the definition of trauma is to experience something that you don't have the emotional or cognitive capacity to process. And it actually fractures your neurology. Trauma is when you experience something that cognitively and emotionally you cannot process. So it creates fragmentation. It creates a fragmented way in which you view yourself and the world. And the way that our subconscious mind copes with that trauma is to create defenses, to create a way of interacting with others and the world to protect us from ever having that experience again. And this is why it is so violent, in a way, to judge each other for our behaviors without truly understanding our experiences. And when we don't have these shared experiences, we're left on our own. And what happens in that aloneness is we start to build defenses. And these defenses are very clever because the defenses actually prevent us from ever needing to look out at that wound. When someone gets close to the wound from outside of us, we defend. We push them away. Something will happen in our reality to take us away from needing to actually go there, to keep us safe. And self-sabotage is something that so many of us need to understand where it comes from and why it exists. Because yes, self-sabotage sucks. It fucking sucks. I've had trauma come up this week from my childhood. I'm looking at a wound in my own life. And being with that wound and looking at the ways in which I've created defenses around that wound. I could look at this one of two ways. I could look at it and be like, you're so fucking stupid, Nicole, for behaving the way that you've behaved, defending the way that you've defended. But it aggravates the wound. And what we need to create for ourselves so that we can create it for each other is an ability to hold ourselves in the compassion, to reach inside of you and find that innocence inside of you, that innocent child, and actually say to them, it's okay. You're enough. You're enough. I love you. I forgive you. I forgive your unconsciousness. I forgive the parts of you that you couldn't look at, not because you're a fucking bad person, because you didn't have the capacity to process it, because you were never held in that experience by others. So you never learnt how to hold yourself in that experience. See, as children, we look to our parents to teach us, how am I meant to live life? How am I meant to process my emotion? How am I meant to cope with all of the information that's coming to me as a child? How am I meant to actually place that, cope with that? How am I meant to relate to the world? And if you had parents that said, why do you feel that? Why can't you just be happy? Why can't you just be normal? What it creates is a deep feeling of, I'm not welcome unless I fit within this box. And for me, the way that I coped with that was to fuck the box off. And that has its own complications, yeah? When you're like, I don't want any frames. I don't want any boxes, because what that comes at a cost to is intimacy. When you don't have frames, when you don't have boundaries, because you were placed in that box so tightly, what starts to happen in our energetic field is we become magnets through that weakness. And for me, that I attracted experiences where the rigidity of that box was so tight that there was a rebellion that had to happen in my soul. So in my energetic field, I actually attracted situations that violated my boundaries continuously. And I could look at that and I could sit here and I could be like, well, that was abuse. What I experienced was abuse, and I'm a victim of that abuse. Or I could understand that for whatever reason, that was the necessary experience that I needed to wake me up to change and transform and become the strong individual that I am today. And I could look back at this and I could judge myself for all of the behaviors that were ever created in me to cope with not wanting to look at that pain, not wanting to look at that emotion. Or I could think to myself, I'm so fucking strong, because irrespective of the fact that I've carried that pain for so many years, I've actually chosen to show up and be the best version of myself every single day. And I radically forgive myself. And I radically love myself, irrespective of what anyone else thinks. I radically choose me. And that's not to say that it's okay to excuse behaviors that have hurt others. But by punishing ourselves, by blaming ourselves, by not giving ourselves the space to actually look at why those behaviors existed in the first place, you will keep repeating the pattern over and over and over and over and over again, because the universe just wants us. This is the way reality is designed, to pay attention to where things are actually coming from in the depth of our experience, because that's what this life is about fully experiencing, actualizing ourselves. So I'm going to say this to you guys as if I was saying it to myself, because maybe someone needs to hear this today. You're so worthy of the forgiveness that you haven't given yourself. I don't care what you've done, or who you think you are, or what others have projected onto you because they haven't understood your experience. You are not a victim of those experiences. You're a powerful miracle that is worthy of forgiveness when you're willing to reach in and actually look at the parts of you that are the hardest to look at, to go to the depths of those wounds and that pain, and look at all of that in the eye, all of the damage, all of the parts of you that you believe need to be fixed. All of the parts of you that feel broken and not good enough and unlovable and not smart enough, not intelligent enough, not pretty enough, not enough. That maybe has been driven to sabotage yourself or to overachieve just to feel okay, just to feel like you belong in the world, just to feel like you're worthy of love. The constant striving and proving that so many of us have ingrained within us because we just don't believe we're lovable as we are. That part of you deserves forgiveness. That part of you deserves to be held. That part of you deserves understanding. So much more than any of us in ourselves could actually ever fully consciously realize, because there is an innocence within us that is so innocent, that is so pure, that is your heart and soul, that is the part of you that is God, divinity, perfection. That if we were to fully actualize in this lifetime, we probably wouldn't be here on an earthly plane. That part of you is who you are. And the more I go through this journey and my own shit comes up, the anchor that is this philosophy of love and compassion teaches me every day, because the first line of my book is love is not finding the perfection, it's the unconditional permission to explore the imperfection. So what expectations, pressures, judgments do you cast over yourself and others that are preventing you from actually allowing yourself to be in the unconditional permission to explore the imperfection, which is what true love looks like on this earthly plane? Because here's the contradiction. We think, well, we can't just give freedom. We can't just give freedom to ourselves and each other in every single way, because there'll be anarchy, there'll be chaos, there'll be liars and cheaters and thieves. But it works the opposite way. When you meet someone in full trust, in full compassion, in full love, in full reverence to the divinity that exists in them, when you actually fully understand that I am you and you are me, we are one. And not even our behaviors and our conditioning and our judgments and the way that we see the world, that cannot actually segregate us. We stand in solidarity irrespective of whether or not we choose to acknowledge it. That is the truth of our existence as a humanity. We are in unity at all times. When we meet each other in that place, that's when the miracles begin. Because when there is something wrong with one's life, there is something wrong with oneself. Whatever you see on the outside is a reflection of what you haven't resolved on the inside. And the title of this live was Don't Diminish Your Story. There's a story in you that needs to be told. And if you tell yourself, my story is not great enough, I haven't experienced enough, I'm not a hero like the people I look up to who tell their stories, I haven't been through enough pain or trauma to justify being told that I'm an inspiration. But the very fact that you are here and you exist and you show up every single day and you live life even in your unconsciousness, that is worthy of owning. You are worthy of owning yourself. And I can tell you this as someone that has worked with more than 500,000 people and growing. Everyone has parts of themselves that they believe are unlovable. Everyone has a part of themselves that they believe if they were to be transparent about, people in their life would walk away. Everyone has made decisions in their life that they believe make them totally unworthy of the love that it is we crave. And why do we crave it? Because we are it. It doesn't matter what you do. You are that love. You can never not be that love. And when you fully start to actualize the understanding of this, you're then able to provide yourself the space for proper understanding. And when you find that space inside of you where you truly understand, you forgive yourself, you love yourself, you offer yourself compassion, guess what? You create that space for others without even trying. And when you create that space for others, the space has been set. The tone, the rhythm of your vibration has been set. And within that vibration, only that can be returned to you. So if you are judging someone, ridiculing something, someone thinking, I need to withdraw my love, my compassion, my understanding from this person because of X, Y, and Z, You are creating the space, the tone for that to unfold. Own your story. Every part of it. The parts that you are so scared to tell. The parts of you that are so afraid of having seen. The parts of you that think if someone found out, they keep you as an imposter inside of your own mind and heart and soul, that they would walk away. Those parts of you, share that. Understand that even in that, there was an innocence that drove you to do the things that you've done. And that's not to justify this behavior in the future. It's to understand where it came from so it can fully be healed. Because at the end of the day, irrespective of how it shows up, we are walking each other home. We're walking each other home back to love, back to the wholeness of who we are. I love you guys. I really, truly hope that what I've shared this morning lands the way I've needed it to land. I've had very beautiful awareness this week that as a speaker and an author, that I really want shared, that I'm going to start speaking to the part of me that exists in you. I'm going to say the words I needed to hear the most, and I'm not going to withhold anymore. That is my commitment. So I love you guys. Share this video if you feel like someone on your socials needs to hear it today. And let me know if that landed, because that came deep from my heart. So love you guys.